We are playing catch up this week with a whole bunch of Academy Award nominees. We are finally turning to Nimona, which has been on Netflix for like 6 months. So many of you guys are like, will you please review Nimona? We now finally are. When I mentioned to Nick, I'm like, Nick, have you seen Nimona? He's like, yeah, like 8 times. Like, where was I when you were watching Nimona on this TV right behind me? He's like, I don't know, but it's really good. You want to watch it? I'm like, yes, I do want to watch it. So I watched it with Nick. Alonzo, what's Nimona about?
The name's Nimona. Your sidekick has arrived.
I don't need a sidekick.
Every villain needs a sidekick.
I'm not a villain.
Yes, apologies to listeners, other critics. Like people have been telling me for months about this movie, and I just let it slip by me. And so, yeah, now we're catching up, and I'm glad we did. So, Nimona is set in a kingdom that has been beset by dragons, and a hero named Glorieth managed to. Is it Glorieth?
Gloreth. It's like Gwyneth with a glore.
Gotcha. Gloreth. Managed to repel them and to keep the kingdom safe, built a big wall and began this elite army of dragon fighters, and it was passed down from generation to generation. So it's 1,000 years later. The kingdom is still kind of medieval, but also very futuristic in its tech. And for the first time, a non-nobleman has made his way through the ranks of dragon training, a guy named Ballister Bolthart, voiced by Riz Ahmed. And at the big moment where the queen is finally going to knight him, this laser comes out of the handle of his sword and murders the queen. And so now Ballister is a wanted man. Everybody is after him. And the one person on his side is a young girl named Nimona, who as the story progresses, we learn a lot more about her and what her abilities are, but she is mainly working with him as an agent of chaos, but eventually trying to help him clear his name. And the two of them develop a friendship and really come to understand each other. And as they investigate who really killed the queen, they come to start tackling some big questions about what this kingdom believes and who decides what a monster is, and a lot of other issues that are metaphorically brilliant. Also, Ballister has a boyfriend, like one of his fellow knights. They're like totally gay together, and that's awesome. And this
he's
movie,
hot.
and he's hot. And this movie has a lot of queer subtext, but also subtext about, xenophobia and just how certain governments will create a fear of the other to, keep the populace in line and to pursue their own agendas. This is a great animated film. I loved looking at it. It's funny. It's inventive. It goes in plot directions I wasn't expecting. And it's really got a message. I mean, like we've seen a lot of Pixar movies where it's like, oh, the person you thought was a hero is actually a bad guy. And, the outsiders are great. And, we've seen that kind of storytelling before, but I think this one is really pointed in a political way that I appreciated, but also in a way that you can still show this to kids. And it's not like you're beating them over the head with anything. Its message is powerful, but subtle. And yeah, I like the animation style a lot. What Nimona eventually does and can do that we see is really, really haunting. There's a great sort of wordless flashback that explains a lot of who everybody is and how we got there. That's gutting. Yeah, I like this a lot.
I think we can say what Nimona's abilities are.
Sure. Okay. She's a shapeshifter.
Yeah. Which I think it's a very powerful transgender metaphor.
Non-binary. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's something that Nimona says at some point. I'm not even sure we can call her a she, because at one point, he will ask, who are you? What are you? And Nimona will say, I'm Nimona. And she doesn't really suffer fool. She really doesn't want to answer a lot of questions.
He says, I thought you were a little girl. And she's like, when I want to be.
Yeah. And then he asks Nimona, what does it feel like, to be able to change your entire form? I mean, Nimona becomes a wide variety of creatures, some of which are adorable, some of which are harrowing, some of which are powerful when they need to be. And Nimona says, like, I feel this itch inside of me when I don't do it. Like when you have to sneeze.
It hurts when I can't do it.
Yeah, that seemed like such a really simple yet powerful explanation of what that must feel like to be in a body that does not feel like yours.
Yeah.
you
or
know?
to contain multitudes, as Walt
Yeah.
Whitman would say, and be forced to like only manifest one of them,
Right, conform to what society expects you to be. And
Yeah.
so that friendship is really lovely. And at first they are depicted as villainous figures, and she embraces this villain, Nimona rather, embraces this villainous persona and like, let's have fun with the murder board. And Grace Moretz gives a really lively, very sprightly performance here. It kind of teeters on manic pixie dream girl until you consider that there's maybe not a girl at all, but a lot of different kinds of creature. Yeah, it's a really good voice cast. I will say that it does offer some ideas that we have seen a lot. I mean, this is based on a graphic novel. The idea of, there being something outside the wall of that kingdom that is presented as scary is,
Right.
the stuff of all dystopian YA.
Sure.
The idea of like, you've got to be indoctrinated to live a certain life within the confines of this safe space. Don't
Because
think
out
about what's out there.
there be dragons,
It's scary out there, and perhaps that's not necessarily true. I would say that it reaches a certain point where it becomes kind of a standard animated action movie in terms of just the choreography and the action, the fight scenes and the chases. But what Nimona becomes within that scene is so startling and so unlike anything that preceded it. And it must have been tough to achieve in terms of like both the fluidity of the creature, but also like the texture, but also the depth of it. Like there's a lot going on with what Nimona becomes there that's really interesting to watch.
And from a screenwriting point of view, I have to say, like, one of the things that always that will bug me in a Pixar movie, like in like I always think of Up and Ratatouille, where you have the two central characters who are friends, and then they have to not be friends, or for the third act to happen. And I feel like in both of those movies, for as much as there's a lot of greatness in both of those films, I always feel like that part is not written in a way that I bought it. Here, I totally buy it. And what separates Bal and Nimona for a while is very much rooted in the whole plot of this and what we know about each of these characters and about the world that they live in. And so I thought that at least was set up really well. I appreciated it on that front. But yeah, there's a terrific cast here of people. I don't know that we'd have done a lot of cartoon work, but like Frances Conroy and RuPaul and India Moore and Sarah Sherman and Julio Torres.
Beck Bennett gets to be a goofball as always.
Beck Bennett, of course.
He's always like the dude bro guy.
Exactly. But Riz Ahmed and Chloe Grace Moretz are terrific. I really liked Eugene Lee Yang as Ambrosius Golden Loin.
Such a good name.
A direct descendant of Glorith. This movie has a lot going for it, and it's a movie that's worth discussing and thinking about and kind of digging into what it has to say, which I think is always really exciting. But I think that what it has to say doesn't sort of overwhelm just the fun of it and the adventure of it.
It's very lively. Like when Nimona is like shifting from one creature to another, it is super fun and you can't catch all the details at once. Also, I'm just glad this movie has seen the light of day because it had sort of a tortured past. It's directed by Nick Bruno and Troy Quane, and it was supposed to have been a Pixar film. And now
a Blue Sky film.
I'm sorry, exactly. And then Annapurna and Netflix picked it up. So
because I think when Disney bought Fox, they also got Blue Sky, and then it got put in turnaround or whatever. So Annapurna and Netflix to the rescue. So and now they're Oscar nominees. So ta-da!
Yeah, ta-da! So what's your number then?
I'll take a 9. I really enjoyed this.
I'll say like a 7.5. I had a good time too. I think it's the third act's a little weak, but I enjoyed it very much and it's got a lot to say. So Nimona, as you all are well aware, is on Netflix. If you haven't already checked it out, please do.